Good morning and welcome to your favorite Friday morning podcast, Conversations with Buddy, brought to you by The Rec, way more than a bowling alley. We give you the ability to connect each week with our guest because we believe people matter, you matter. We are grateful to all the listeners who take the time each week to hear the stories of our guests. Please help us grow the show by taking a moment right now and subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts and give us a review. Our purpose of this podcast is to impact the world one testimony at a time. My guest this morning is none other than Alli Barnes. Welcome, Alli.
Good morning.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
It's early on a Friday morning. Was it hard getting out of bed this morning to get here to do this?
You know, it wasn't. I was a little nervous, but equally excited. So
Okay.
It wasn't difficult.
Okay. And then your mom's watching your kids.
She is. Bless her heart.
Jesse's working.
Yep.
You got him working hard?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, good. Crack the whip on the guy.
Yep.
I love that. Well, cool. Let me do a quick intro of you, and I'm just going to use what you sent me.
Okay.
I mean, I've known you for, 6 years now?
Yeah.
I think 2018,
Yep.
give or take. Well, this is Alli Barnes. So, been married to Jesse for 9 years. You're the mom to Olivia, McKenna, and Blake, who are 6, 3, and 7 months. What a beautiful family, by the way.
Thank you. They are pretty sweet.
That's so cool. You are an Oregon State alum. By the way, I wore my Oregon State
noticed.
little golf shirt.
Yep.
Love Oregon State. You are a senior mortgage loan officer. You are a local business owner and entrepreneur. That's cool, by the way. We'll talk about that, the business that you may have bought recently. You are a disciple of Jesus. Then you say you recharge by being outside and spending time with family. I am an introverted empath. I'm not sure what that means yet. We'll talk about that. That loves working in sales because of the relational nature of the business. And then the thing I wrote is I know that you're also a book reader. And then you text me a book last night because you like John Mark Comer.
Yeah,
I do as well. By the way, what's the book that you sent me last night? And what do you like about it?
It's called Practicing the Way by John Mark Comer. So, as you know, I mean, he has a whole selection of amazing books that he's written. Every time he writes one, I'm like, okay, this is the best one he's ever written. But this one, I want to say, is his best. It's just all-encompassing of really how do you make your life around the apprenticeship of Jesus. When so much of us have made our human life around achievements, how do we instead make it about the formation of our lives and discipleship of Jesus? We all follow something. He even argues that we're all believers. We all have faith, even if we don't want to admit it. But what is it that we have faith in? Is it Jesus or something else? I mean, I've chosen Jesus. But it's just a very interesting book, not just about what we have faith in, but how do you practice it?
This is going to be a really deep conversation. And we already started in deep. I think John Mark Comer, I would say the book that I read, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, is my second favorite book, obviously behind the Bible. But no, John Mark Comer, I mean, his voice is cool. The way he shares Jesus is just second to none almost.
Right.
So,
yeah, he's blessed.
Well, we're going to dive into maybe what that way is, the way of Jesus, because I'm curious. But let's hear about Alli. Like, who is Alli? Where were you born? What were your family like? Your mom and dad, your sister? Have you always been in Salem? Let's hear about Alli. So tell me where you were born.
Born in Salem, Oregon, born and raised. Jesse always jokes that I haven't really left that bubble. So I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, but born and raised in Salem, both my parents from Portland. And yeah, I grew up in a very close, tight-knit family. Not a lot of crazy, bad things to say about my upbringing. I really have been blessed and protected. And went to school here my whole life. Finally got a little bit outside my bubble and went to Oregon State. That's where I met Jesse. I always joke that was the best thing to come out of my college experience was meeting my husband. He's 3 years older than me, so it started with a friendship with his little sister and then turned into a relationship with him. We got married and now have 3 wonderful kids. As you know, we broke away for a little bit, moved to Arizona to try out life in the desert, and we did not like it. the heat was not for us, especially not for my children. And I always say to Jesse, I don't know how people parent in that weather. It's too hot. And missed our family, missed our community here. So we were blessed to get our kids back in school here and now have really planted deep roots here in Salem, Oregon.
Well, sometimes you have to leave the nest before you can come back to it and to figure out what was important to you. And so maybe that was part of the journey. Maybe, you were gone for what, 6-8 months?
Correct, yes.
And then you're like, hey, this is not for us. We realized what we had was pretty amazing. I was just having breakfast with a young man, a friend of mine this morning, and his family moved to the South this last year. And it's interesting. I think one of the spouses is really homesick and ready to come home. I think guys can live anywhere, so it's maybe the female, the spouse is maybe more inclined to be family. I think guys find their identity in work, so we can be busy wherever. Is that true? Would you say that some of that's true?
Absolutely. I think as women, we're created to be more relational. So when that relational aspect, at least the comfortable relationships we have in our life are taken from us, it can be tricky. But God does call us to cling to our spouses. So it was still a beautiful experience. That's what we did. Leave and cleave. You've said that to me many a times, that God calls us to leave and cleave, and that's what we did. So it was a beautiful experience, but happy to be back.
Yeah, I think I told you the story when me and my wife lived in Central Oregon, close to my family. And sometimes family can be the majority instead of the minority in that leaving and cleaving. And to get to know who your spouse is, sometimes you got to leave. And so we left after a couple of years of living in Central Oregon just to really start a life on our own and be separate. And then when my daughter Molly got married, they lived in Arizona for probably 9 months during her husband's last year of college. And I think that was great for them to start out away and then be able to move back, being acclimated as a married couple primarily. And I think it's made their relationship really good. Most of us do it like you did, though, where you're around family and family's really important. And then, being separate from family, it sometimes comes later and sometimes it doesn't come at all. So it's good that you learned the lesson.
Yeah, there was a lesson to be learned.
Cool.
Graciously, too.
Yeah. Okay, so you grew up in Salem, went to Oregon State. You met a guy named Jesse. Before that, though, how did your mom and dad impact who Alli is today? You're a firstborn, right? You're the oldest of two.
Right.
So
Type A, firstborn, typical firstborn, yes.
You graduated in 2012?
From high school?
Yeah.
10.
Okay. I can remember.
Yeah, 2010.
But yeah, how did mom and dad impact you and how you're wired and kind of the things that you've carried from that?
I mean, isn't it funny how as we get older, we start to see ourselves in our parents, and
Scary.
Whether it's a good or bad thing.
Yeah.
If you've met my mom, she's the sweetest creature to walk the planet. She's truly the nicest, most kind-hearted woman. And I do believe that a lot of my gentleness and kindness and meekness even comes from her.
Yeah.
She truly is just all-encompassing, just the sweetest woman. My dad is driven, and he's been in sales my whole life. So he's taught me a lot about, achievements and growing and business and how to go after what you want. And there was always that high expectation of you go to college and you be a career woman.
Really? He taught you that?
Yeah.
Okay.
There was, never settling for less than that. So I do think that them pushing me from an early age and teaching me that sort of responsibility has stuck with me.
That's so cool. I love that. Yeah. Good or bad, our parents influenced us just like you're influencing your kids. And we'll talk about the story about Olivia because I think it's one of the most beautiful stories I know about you. But there's a lot to unpack before that. My question is, okay, so you went to Oregon State. And first of all, what did you study at Oregon State?
I started in business, just general business.
Yeah.
And then I met Jesse, who was studying speech communications. Yeah. And I think part of me wanted to spend more time with him. And the other part of me was, so it turned into speech communications.
I did. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you get started dating. What year? You were probably a freshman when you started dating him?
Yeah, I think it was 2010. Took a small break. And then 2011, we are officially dating. And so
official.
12 years.
Okay, you guys dated. How did you know that Jesse was the one? Because I've got 2 daughters. One's married, one's not married. By the way, the one that's not married is looking. So if you know of anybody,
and I
Emily,
know her,
this is
and
for
she's
you.
one of
You're
the
welcome.
coolest chicks around.
How did you know Jesse was the one?
Would you believe me if I told you we just talked about this last night? Jesse and I did.
I would believe it because it's important.
It is. He was different. I'll start by that than anyone else I had ever dated, and I truly believe it was such a God thing. I just knew, and that's why we were kind of slow to date, was because I knew once we, made that commitment to dating, that was it. It was going to be marriage. I just knew. I had a feeling. But feelings can be deceptive.
Sure.
Prayed about it. Talked to my friends and, really took the dating period seriously. But to be honest, he is all of the things I am not. We are so polar opposite. And I mean, not in the big ways. We have the same foundational beliefs when it comes to, our beliefs and how to parent and all that, thankfully, are in line. But the little stuff, the minor, we are so different. And we probably, on paper don't look the same. And I think that God really blessed me in that way. He saw the areas where I was lacking and was like, well, let me bring you this man who makes up for those areas.
Well, it's funny. People get married, they start dating, they get married, and then 10, 20 years later, oftentimes divorce will happen because, we're so different. But if you back all the way up to the very beginning, that's exactly why you like the person, because they're different than you. You wouldn't marry you.
No.
You'd probably, it wouldn't work out. But it's interesting how we forget why you want that polar opposite.
I don't think it's that we forget. I think we get more selfish as we get older, and that interest perspective starts to kick in, and we think, well, we just think we're so cool. We're these almighty people that need more of me, when really we don't need more of me. We need more of Jesus. And, marriages don't work out.
Yeah, that's good. That's really deep. Well, okay, so you get married to Jesse. What does being a wife mean to you, and also being a mom to your 3 beautiful kids? What's that mean to you? And did you always want to be a mom? Was that something as a young little girl? I mean, do girls grow up going, hey, I want to be a wife and a mom? Is that a thing?
I think I did. I always say, because I had such a great mother as a role model, that she made it look easy.
Yeah.
And because of that, I always wanted to be a mom and a wife. But it wasn't until I met Jesse that I thought, man, I cannot wait to be a mother. I cannot wait to be a mother to his kids, to our kids, and take this job very, very seriously. Because this could possibly be the most important role I have in my entire life. So I would say, when it comes to being, a wife, there's just a lot of selflessness in it. And that's not easy. But I would say the more selflessness, the more we give, and really truly try to model our lives after Jesus. That's when I was talking about being, apprentice of Jesus. The more we do that, the more we can love our spouses. And then the same thing with my kids. Jess and I are always talking about how to be better parents and how to love our kids better. And I think that the best way to do that is just modeling the behavior that we want them to have. Buddy, you and I have joked about this, where we can tell our kids to do something 1,000,000 times, but it's not until we actually do it and they see us acting on it that they actually want to copy our behavior, for good or bad, right? So I've noticed that if I want Olivia to pick up her Bible and flip through the pages on there, I've got to pick up my Bible first, and then she does the same. And then also, the reverse is true. If I want, McKenna to stop throwing her clothes all over the floor, I got to stop throwing my clothes on the floor, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Monkey see, monkey do. As
Correct.
We teach kids, I often would know if I didn't like the behavior in my kids, maybe even my wife, it actually became my problem because it was me doing those behaviors.
Right.
As I learned that, that's my responsibility as a man to demonstrate better behaviors, it's interesting how it all changed.
Right.
So we're going to unpack the story real quick of, 5 or 6 years ago, probably 4 years ago, we, at our office, we're going to do get up early in the morning and do the 5 a.m. club individually, right?
Yep.
So I present this idea that, hey, let's get up at 5 a.m. I don't know what you guys are going to do. I knew what my morning routine would be like. By the way, I get up at 4 a.m. now, so 5 seems easy, but at the time, 5's like, I don't know if I can do this. In fact, it was really hard. I did it for 30 days and like, holy crap. But it was interesting. We're all getting for the month of October. I don't know why October, but we agreed we all, probably 5 or 6 of us, we're all going to get up at 5 a.m. and for 1 month and do whatever it is we do. Tell a story about what happened, because I think it's really profound, and then how old your kids were at the time.
Yeah, I want to say Olivia was 3 because McKenna was just born. And we were all, we had our accountability group. We were all texting that we were all going to get up at 5 a.m. for a month. And I had been doing that for some time. And one morning I wake up and Olivia's not in her bed. So I come downstairs and I flip on the lights and she's sitting on the couch with her Bible open. She doesn't know how to read. She's just looking at the pages. I said, Olivia, what are you doing? You're up so early. She said, I wanted to get up early like you and read the Bible like you. And I didn't realize this, but had been watching me get up at 5 a.m., open my Bible, and she wanted to do the same. And it was a beautiful picture of what the power we have as parents to impact our kids and really the way God intended. Yeah.
You took a picture of that, if I remember correctly. At least it's in my brain. I can see the picture of Olivia with a book, and assuming it's the Bible. But if you would have told your kids, I don't care if they're 3 or 33, you're going to get up at 5 a.m. and you're going to read your Bible. No kid's like, I don't think I want to do that. But what's interesting, here's what I remember. Olivia was almost 4. She was still 3, not yet 4. This is a 3-year-old who, before you got up at 5 a.m., was already downstairs. She had her Bible open. That I don't know. People will not always listen to what you say, but they'll almost always watch what you do. And if you want to really impact somebody, then make sure that you're doing what you want other people to do, that you're actually doing those things. And I think that will be a picture I always remember for the rest of my life. And what a sweet thing. I think it's so cool that our kids do, good or bad, mimic us.
They do.
So
that's why I say parenting is so sanctifying. It really just brings out, the best in you.
It's funny you say the word sanctifying. So Jefferson Baptist Church has a monthly breakfast, and I go to it sometimes. And one morning, in fact, the guy I had breakfast with this morning, his brother was working on the Saturday morning delivering breakfast or whatever to each of the guys. And he had just gotten married. This was last summer. And I said, hey, how's the married life? And he goes, sanctifying. I'm like, that's really a big word. It's humbling and sanctifying. It's, sanctification it's a couple things. Number one, it's when you're sanctified, you're set apart for God as a believer. But there's also a thing called progressive sanctification. It's growth, our growth in Christ, and that's another level of sanctification. And so I think marriage is sanctifying, and it was just a big word, so you used it. I thought, well, that's pretty cool. What do you think is the greatest challenge in raising kids in these days, and how have you and Jesse overcome some of those challenges? That's a deep one.
Yeah. Off the top of my head, I think we as humans, it's human nature to be influenced by something, right? God says that in the Bible, that the world will, ultimately try to influence us, right? And I think one of our biggest, worries as parents is that our kids are going to be, overly influenced by the outside world. Because we all want to think that we are these blank slates that, you do you, and my destiny is up to me, and we have this, stronghold on our futures. But really, that's not the truth. We are all so moldable and easily influenced. So it's up to us to choose what we give power to. And so for me as a parent, I'm like, okay, I'm I can put my kids in a Christian school. We can take them to church on Sundays. We can model Christ-like behavior at home. But how do we, keep them from influences that we know ultimately are to their detriment?
Yeah.
And so that's been our biggest challenge as parents is, how do we be the ultimate influence? Well, Jesus is the ultimate influence, but how do we, model that and not let, right now it's, TV shows, but then it could be social media and, it'll evolve.
Yeah. Yeah. Cell phones are an interesting thing as your kids get a little older. Hopefully they don't have one yet, but at some point in time, our kids are being born with cell phones coming out of the womb and, here's your cell phone. But,
right. It's a safety thing. They need a phone because it's a safe thing.
Yeah.
How did we get by years and years and years without them?
Totally.
I think it can actually be the opposite. So.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you brought up initially, John Mark Comer and the way, which is Jesus. When you think about faith, how and when did you come to faith in Christ? Why did you make that decision? Why would that be the way?
To be honest with you, like how my testimony is nothing big and extravagant and exciting. It truly was just my mom. I remember her dropping us off in Kids Nation on Sundays at Morning Star, and I just remember thinking at a very young age, and that's kind of my. I told you I'm an empath. I'm sort of an introvert. My introvert nature was, even at a young age, very reflective. I was always thinking about big ideas and big things from a young age. And I always thought, there's got to be more to life. There's more to life. I remember having that thought from a really young age, but not really knowing what it was until my mom started taking us to church, and my mom and dad. And I remember thinking, this is it. Okay, I figured it out, even at a young age. And
really?
So I tell Jesse as an adult now, I do believe there was someone somewhere really praying for me and advocating for my salvation.
Yeah.
I don't know who that was or if it was an angel or what, but I do believe that there was, obviously the Holy Spirit is a form of advocation for us, but
Amen.
I believe there was someone advocating for my salvation from an early age, because it was always such a curiosity to me that ultimately I fed into and gave my life to Jesus probably in my teen years.
Yeah. By the way, your testimony is amazing. It is miraculous, that God would save us and show you the way, right? As a young person. I grew up in church too, but I didn't know Christ until I was 28.
Yeah.
But my grandma had been praying for my entire life. And so my credit goes to my grandma, who later on when I finally accepted Christ at 28, I knew no Bible verses, not one. And, but my grandma had been praying the whole time.
Wow.
So yeah, it's pretty cool.
That is cool.
Your story is great, Alli. Do your kids know Jesus, and how do you know?
Absolutely. Just yesterday, Olivia came into our room and she drew this picture, and it was Jesus, and he had these big arms stretched out with these big cloth clothes on, and she drew Blake crawling next to his feet. And she drew her, which I noticed she wasn't standing. She was on her knees, almost bowing. And then she drew McKenna, and then there was an angel in the corner, and she brought it in to Jesse and I, and she showed it to us. And, she can't really communicate her feelings so much, but she can draw them. She's 6, and she showed it to us. I took a picture of it. I'll show you later. Yeah. And she said, look, it's Jesus protecting us. And
that's
I
amazing.
Looked at Jessie and I said, this girl is going to move mountains. Her faith is so strong for a 6-year-old. It gives me chills. And I know McKenna is soaking that up, and we're right behind her and Blake. Yeah, absolutely.
All because of your decision to accept Christ, and Jesse too. When did Jesse become a believer?
I want to say that he had been going to church his entire life.
Yeah.
His mom is an incredibly wonderful human being that I will jokingly say has a direct line to God. If you need something prayed for and you need healing, you go to Young, she will pray and it happens. It's insane. And he had, his mom advocating for his salvation from a young age. And I think around the same time I did, probably teen years, accepted Christ.
So cool. I love that. Well, when you talk about being a introvert empath, unpack that a little bit more just so I understand that. What does that mean? I know what an introvert is, extrovert is, but what's the word?
An empath, I mean, for me, this is like a self-proclaimed thing, is that I have this deep need to be empathetic to anything and everyone. Like, never met a stranger. I might not be the most outgoing person in the room,
right,
but I can almost always empathize with someone on some level, stranger or not. And to my detriment sometimes, Jesse will say, "You're too nice," or, that was way too much. But it's kind of this deep, need to see the best in people and love that part of them.
Yeah, yeah. And really, I get that from Jesse's perspective to say, hey, it's from his perspective, it's too much. Well, but unless God's called you to do that,
right,
and that's how he's wired you specifically to be that empathetic, mother, friend, whatever. And so, you know what? Yeah, I love that. I love that you're empathetic. You're not judging people. You're just accepting them for who they are and wherever that goes.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm not perfect. There's always there's judgment that happens, but that I'm sure that I should be getting forgiveness for. But
well, sounds like you're human to me. So
yeah,
I know.
Thank you for that reminder.
Lord, why am I judging? Yes, help me to stop judging. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nope. I just want to, the two greatest commandments is love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and equally to love your neighbor as yourself. If we're not loving people and we're just judging, then almost we're not loving them, but we're also not loving God, because if we're loving God, then we're loving his people.
Right. Yeah.
That's my conviction. So God's really, I have a critical nature. That's kind of how I'm wired. And God's really pressed on me in the last 5 or 10 years, just encourage people. And so that's the lesson I'm learning. Love people and encourage people.
You are one of the most encouraging people I've ever met.
Oh, that's interesting. Thank you for saying that.
So you say you're critical. And I mean, I've worked with you, so I know where that probably comes from. But at the same time, you are definitely a lot of people's biggest advocate. So,
Well, thank you. And I feel that way for you too. You love on your clients. Let's talk mortgage for a sec. How long have you been doing mortgages?
7 years.
So you were 23, 22?
Yeah. Yep.
Crazy. Just such a young person getting into the world. What was life like getting in the mortgage at first when you were young? And then where are you at today?
I didn't know anything about mortgages. I just thought I'm going to work a job that will help provide for the family. And I like people. We just bought a house. I went through the mortgage process. Maybe I have something I could, maybe there's something here. And not to mention it was a family friend that needed an assistant. So I raised my hand. Yeah. And I had gotten a degree in speech communications. Come to find out, you don't need a degree to do mortgages. But
it's a whole different language, man.
It's so different.
Yeah.
But little did I know, God was preparing me for a career that I would love and that would open so many doors and connections for me.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I know that you're uniquely wired. You're probably one of the busiest people I know. Yet you wouldn't know that, right? But you run a business.
Right.
A mortgage business.
Yep.
You have 3 kids now.
Mm-hmm.
Any more kids, by the way?
No, we are done.
Done. Okay.
Doors closed.
Just checking. I checked with Jesse, I think sometime in the past, and I think that all got resolved.
Yeah. He'll tell you the whole story.
Yeah, kind of funny. But then you and Jesse are all also entrepreneurs. So bring all that in, because you guys are busy doing a lot.
Yeah, we're busy. We're both very business oriented, and both firstborns, both kind of type A. So you put that together and boom, it's just a lot. So yeah, I have my mortgage business. We bought a local restaurant, the Honky Tonk Bar and Grill here in Salem, which has been fun. I co-lead a women's investing network group where we just talk about different type of investing. I lead a Bible study at my house. I mean, we've got a lot going on. And then, we're always looking at other business opportunities with other friends. And Jesse is always doing the same, trying to turn over that next rock. We're busy. Yeah.
It's funny. I talk a lot about firstborn and secondborn because it's fascinating to understand the birth order. And typically, a firstborn will marry a secondborn.
Yep.
Almost never a firstborn marries a firstborn. It does happen. Like I think Ronald Reagan and Nancy Reagan were firstborns.
Interesting.
But almost never do two firstborns because they're two driven people. And you and Jesse have made it work. Mm-hmm. You're both firstborns, driven, and I know Jesse's pretty driven.
Very.
And I know you are. I've worked with you and I know your drive. How do you guys make that work? That's interesting. Because you guys are both busy. You both have your own careers.
Right.
And you're both parents and
yeah.
How do you navigate all that?
Because we respect each other and at the end of the day, he's the leader of our home. And I always want him to know and feel that like at the end of the day, my biggest calling is to support you. And saying that can kind of almost come across like I can hear women going, "Oh my gosh, she said that." What? Women power. No.
Women power, yeah.
Yeah, it's true. But he loves and respects the way I, lead the home and our children. And we've very much are secure in those roles. Like there's never a doubt in my mind that he's not going to be able to financially provide for our family and lead our home. And he has no doubt in his mind that I can't, raise the kids when, he's not home and, make the housework. And we do those roles once we knew and really kind of stopped trying to, live what we felt like the world was calling us to do and really just focus on what worked for us and our family. Then, we just were exceedingly blessed. And so, yes, we have our own jobs and businesses and stuff, but at the end of the day, that's how it works.
How do you think the world wants you to live? I want you to unpack that a little bit because I think we're all confused, if I'm being really honest. I'm a guy.
Yep.
I'm a Christian guy. And I know the way, yet I can default into, well, the world's be the man and be the boss and be the whatever. Unpack what the world wants a husband and wife to live like, and then how is you already did a little bit, biblically speaking, how does Jesus want you to live?
I think we really, really overcomplicate it. And I think we take these roles as almost too seriously in a way when it's very, very simple. Like you had said, our job is to love others more than ourselves. And then let's take that a step further. How do we love our spouses more than ourselves and our children more than ourselves? Well, it's just, you don't put yourself first. And the world wants us to believe that we need to put ourselves first in every situation. Like you do you and self-care. And if my future depended on me solely, that would terrify me. I don't want it to be up to me.
Yeah.
It is up to God, and his plans are bigger than mine. Always. And I think the world wants us to believe the opposite, that we are in control of our destinies. And I even think, big corporations and things will honestly make us believe that, because those are the easiest people to mold, are people that think that they have the control over everything when in reality they don't. And the sooner we surrender to that, the more life just makes sense.
Yeah.
Is that it? Is that what you're looking for?
That's perfect.
It's a deep question.
Well, I was thinking, my priorities used to be God, my wife, kids, ministry, finance, health, work. And I totally agree on the whole self-care thing. But what is interesting is I changed it in the last year or so. God, health, wife, kids, so on and so forth. Because I can be better in ministry for my wife, for my kids, for people if I'm actually healthy.
Right.
And while there is some self-care in that, I am focused on God and loving people. And in the middle there is health to really be healthy spiritually, physically, emotionally, and just grounded.
Yeah.
And that's such a fine line because the world says they want to put us up on a pedestal. Alli, you're amazing. Buddy, you're amazing. And then almost to the point where we're stuck. Now we're trying to appease the world and not God. And that's where we get stuck.
Yeah.
And that's a dangerous place to be. While we still need self-care, it still can't be about me.
Yes.
And so that's, how do you live that, you yourself, Alli, daily? And maybe it's being married and having kids. God's like, I'll fix you, right? I'm going to give you a dose of some humility with a spouse and kids. Not to put words in your mouth, but
you're right.
How would you unpack that?
Are you talking about the health aspect of all of that?
Just remaining humble, just remembering it's not about me. It's about God. It's about people. Yet you're in the middle there. God's still using you as a broken vessel to go do the work He's called you to do. And you have to be healthy.
Right. I turned 30 2 years ago now.
Oh, you're not 29?
And I swear all these, things that, weren't issues before, all of a sudden you turn 30 and you wake up and you're like, oh, I've got thyroid issues. My hormones are all over the place. I feel sick all the time. Why am I so tired?
Yeah.
Well, I've had 3 kids. I'm stressed out to the max a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And I mean, God, what's one of the commandments? To give God a day of rest. And I think that the Lord has laid out this beautiful blueprint on how to live a healthy, balanced life. But because we are so focused on achievement over formation, that we will go, push ourselves to the max. So, and that's something Jesse has taught me a lot about, is how to live a healthier lifestyle, not for yourself, but for the people you love. And I recently got the privilege to listen to this doctor talk for a good hour about different health protocols she goes through and how they lined up to my life were amazing. But she said it like this: when she sits down and eats a plate of vegetables and nutrient-dense food and something that she can look at and be like, wow, this is healthy, she used to say, well, this is a chore, having to sit down and eat these vegetables and go work out and have this healthy lifestyle. Now it's like, look how much I love myself to sit down and give my body what it actually needs. And parenting and needing to get through a busy day has taught me a lot about setting myself up for a healthy lifestyle, because I used to be able to just have a bowl of cereal and I could not eat for hours. Now that maybe sustains me for 15 minutes and I need another snack because
sugar dose is
it makes you all over the place. So now when I make health a priority, it's shifting your emotional connection to food and working out. And instead of it being a chore, it's, wow, look at how I'm preserving what God created.
You also shared the video for Sean, so she said to say thank you this morning.
I'm glad she watched it, yeah.
Yeah, no, she did. I don't think she got it right at the end, but she was able to watch it later. But yeah, we're all getting older. My wife and I are mid-50s, so health is a big deal. And it's even harder, to eat healthy, exercise, and feel energetic. So it's quite the battle, but it's part of the humbling process or the sanctifying process, is that we really have to depend on God, because God knows the days of our lives, the numbers of hairs on our head.
Yeah.
He knows everything. He knows more about us than we know about ourselves.
Yes.
His ways are higher than our ways. So surrendering to God's way is the only way. And I don't know how people do it who try to live their own way, doing their own thing without any hope. How do people do that?
I think some people are just lucky and maybe fumble through life and have, some good happenstances happen, but to have a full life given to the Lord, I don't think there's no replica for that. There's no other way of being. And I can tell you firsthand, I've tried doing things on my own. I mean, we all have. And unfortunately, I choose God's way every time.
Alli, have you grown a lot since I first met you? Because, this is good for you to unpack your journey. Because I meet with guys. I don't typically meet with women. That's not my role. My role is meet with guys. But really hearing your story, you're all in on Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really, really impactful. I didn't know you're doing a Bible study. I mean, I know you do things, but just hearing you unpack that is really cool. Is it all a women's Bible study? Is it a husband and wife Bible study that you guys do?
The one at my house is is for the women. Yeah. Because like you, I'm interested in pouring into other women. I have more value there than I would too.
Yeah. Does it bring you joy?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it makes me nervous to invite people into my home that I maybe haven't been there before, or, to host. I'm almost 32, and I don't have a ton of experience of hosting, so it was a stretching thing, but to have it, it's actually been a huge blessing.
Yeah. And I love the quote. I say it quite a bit, but God doesn't call the equipped. He equips the called. And if you're called to love on people and invite women to your house, and God says so, why not?
Yeah.
What can go wrong?
Yeah, nothing.
Nothing can go wrong.
Because it's not about us, right?
It's not about us, is it? Man, this is really good. I really have enjoyed this. What do you think? We're going to wrap up here in just a moment, but where do you think God's taken you, or you and Jesse, you and your family? What's the next year, 10 years, 20 years? Do you think that far out?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I think we're going to continue to grow our businesses. We're really excited about the restaurant and seeing that evolve over the years and become one of the best places to hang out in Salem. I mean, we have huge dreams and goals for that restaurant. And then hopefully taking, what we've learned from that and replicating it with other businesses that we buy. Yeah. And, having our investment properties is wonderful, but also having businesses in different avenues and really just kind of spreading that out. So we can have different income streams. It spreads the risk, different business partners, and just, pull value from each one. Yeah. One of the reasons we bought the restaurant, and after, dabbling and investing in real estate, was because we kind of like this idea of not really having a cap on the return on your investment. With real estate, obviously I'm an advocate for investing in real estate, or I wouldn't be a mortgage lender. Right. But you can only raise rents so much. You only have so much control over that money coming in. With the restaurant, it's a little different where, yes, it's a big nut to crack. It's a lot of work. Add more events to the calendar, get the menu better, get more butts and seats is what I like to say. Yeah. You really don't have a limit on what you can make that month. The more you pack the calendar and the specials you offer, and you can grow that return on your investment, have more control over it. Yeah. It's interesting. A lot of times when I see husbands and wives and businesses and real estate, oftentimes, I'm not saying it's always this way, but it's the guy that's really all in, and the wife's just like the supportive person. I'd say for you and Jesse, you are equally in these things as much as he is. Like, I mean, you're talking, your language that you're saying is, it's high level. Like, you understand what you're getting into, what matters, what moves the markers, forward, what a return on investment looks like, should be. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's really cool. And would you say that's the firstborn, the type A personality, or what is that? Well, you just asked, do you guys look at 5-10 years down the road? I think because we have the same end goal, those conversations we have about our investing together, they're a lot easier to have because we have the same why, the same end goal. Because of that, because we know we want to leave a legacy to our children and have something to give them and to help them prosper, we can really partner on the stuff now because it's about delayed gratification. Work hard now. We always, Jesse and I always say we're in our building years right now. We're just grinding and trying to grow these businesses so that we have something to live off of when we're older, give to our kids, and we can kind of coast down the road. Yeah. So because we are partnered in our future vision together, it's easier to partner now. Totally. And yeah. Well, if more husbands and wives got on the same page, I just think it's cool. I mean, you're 32, Jesse says 3 years older, 35. So when you're 52 and 55, I mean, you might have enough cash flow you get to work in the businesses, or you don't have to. Right. Is that kind of the goal when you say the end goal? Yeah. Or is it really just grind until the Lord takes you home and
your kids just take over the businesses?
That's definitely the goal, to be able to retire early. Jesse's said that since, the day one, since we were first married, that's been the goal. But we don't know how many years we have left on this earth. So as hard as we work now, we do make time to set aside rest and play with our family and, all of that.
We're going to end on these notes here. These are the fun ones. Like, what do you guys do for fun? Like, what's 2024 look like? And then when you retire, we'll end with this. Do you guys just sell off, on the sunset? What does that look like? Do you guys live in Hawaii? I just want to, do you have a picture what that might look like?
What do we do for fun? We love to be on the golf course. Jesse and I both like to golf. He's a way better golfer than me, but...
Oh, come on. He's not that good.
He's a great golfer. And our kids love it. They love it so much. And Olivia is really taken to it. So that's kind of our family thing, is going to the golf course. Olivia is now in soccer, so it's going to the soccer games. Yeah. And anything we can do outside. We just bought a kite, our whole family. Jesse was running up and down the field all day Saturday trying to get his kite off the ground. Exercise. Just these fun little family memories. It's all about the little moments with kids when they're this young. Yeah. We try not to plan too far in the future because a kid gets sick or something happens. Down the road, I think if we had it our way, we would have a vacation home somewhere, whether that be Maui or Ocotillo in Arizona, somewhere fun like that that's warm so we can escape. But I hope Olivia doesn't hear this someday. I have this idea that if we have these vacation homes, that it almost forces our kids to hang out with us because we have these homes that they're going to want to come hang out in. So it's a foolproof way to get your kids to spend time with you in your later years when you have the fun hangout places.
Yeah. So just a little secret that I do with our girls too, because of course you want to spend time with your kids, right?
Yep.
And you can't make them because as they get older, they're going to do whatever they do. But my wife and I always invite them. Wherever we're going, we invite them. And sometimes they come and sometimes they don't. But if they don't come, like I don't care if it's breakfast on Saturday morning. If they don't come to breakfast, I always take a picture of the food. I go, we're sure missing you.
Oh.
Man, I want them to have FOMO, the fear of missing out. Like, hey,
I bet, yeah.
So
I love it.
We do it that way. It's fun, and I would say most of the time they want to come.
Yeah,
if they can come, they're coming. So
that's how you know you've done a great job at parenting when your kids as adults want to hang out with you.
Amen.
Right?
Amen.
I mean, I want to hang out with you and Sean, so I can only imagine they want to too.
Well, and we do. We hang out as a family, and it's a blast. And we have no rules. We have no expectation. Just if you want to, do it. If you don't, that's cool.
But
we're going to have a blast with or without you.
You guys are a fun bunch. I've spent some time with your girls. I know that you guys are fun.
Yeah. I think the girls are the fun ones. Me and my wife, we're okay, but they're the fun ones for sure. But hey, let's end with this here. So Alli, the mortgage person, if somebody wants to get a mortgage, how do they reach out to you and hear your story? Because I think people want to, I heard you say, didn't you buy a house when you were like 22?
Right.
You and Jesse? That's cool. And I think every young person in America needs to own a home. Mm-hmm. And I think every young person in America needs to call Alli Barnes to get a mortgage. How would somebody reach out to you? What's the best way to connect with you that way?
Preferably my cell phone. I mean, honestly, I love having conversations with people, whether it's over text or call. So my cell phone. Or if they're not quite there yet, ready to have that conversation, email me, alli.barnes@guildmortgage.net.
What's your phone number?
503-881-9443.
And you can find her on Facebook,
and you
Instagram.
Can find me on Instagram.
Every social media platform out there. And then the Honky Tonk, you guys bought that, in December?
Yes. Yep. December 1.
We had the guild party there. That was kind of fun.
Yes.
I mean, it is a cool restaurant.
And getting cooler.
And you can do karaoke. You can do line dancing.
Line dancing, karaoke. We have a 90s night coming up. We had an 80s night. We've got fun live music. It's a good after work.
How do you guys, is that on social media as well? Is that where people find all the updates?
Yes. We have almost 4,000 followers on Facebook. That's where we do most of our communication. So,
what if you had 400,000 followers and they're all from Marion and Polk County of people how do we build that? I was like, I want to grow that. Like, how do we do that?
I mean, it just takes a lot of posting. If you've seen our Facebook, I'm posting on there probably 1 to 2 times a day. Okay.
Cool.
But yeah, engaging with people.
Perfect. Alli, this has been fantastic.
Thank you for having me.
I love your family. It's always been great to know you for the last 6 years, seeing your girls grow, and your little boy now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's awesome.
Thank you.
And we might do this again down the road. Maybe I'll have you and Jesse on as a married couple and talk about, marriage. And because I think that's the important piece that I want people to get, that marriage is hard. It's humbling, and it's what God is, how God sanctifies us.
Yeah.
It's part of the tool. And I'm not saying His Holy Spirit does the work, but marriage is a very sanctifying thing. So anyway, we'll talk about that, pray about that. And if you guys in the next 6 months to a year want to hop back on, tell us a new business you've bought, what's going on in your life, that'd be awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for being here today. Thank you all for listening this week with Alli Barnes. Please reach out to her and get to know her. She's awesome and she'll help you. Have a great week. Thank you all for taking the time each week to be encouraged, challenged, and loved. Remember what Jesus said? I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. My hope and prayer is that you believe the words of Jesus. We'll see you next week. Thanks so much.